Hi, this is Savannah,
And this is Brian from the Dorky Diva Show,
and you're listening to Star Wars.
the best place for below average Star Wars.
In a world where people need 80s and 90s movie reviews, two regular Geordies combine forces to bring you the Brother to Brother 80s and 90s movie review podcast. Check them out on Twitter, YouTube, and all decent podcast vendors.
Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, the best place for below average Star Wars. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete.
I'm Kat Risielka.
I'm Jason Hondo Ling.
And we're back with a brand new episode of Star Wars to break down the latest Star Wars news. Starting off, we're going to talk about two projects that have came out on Disney Plus recently. Only Jason has watched the first one, so that is the new Lego special, Summer Vacation. Jason, without giving away too many spoilers, how did you find the special, and why should we watch it?
Yeah, well, Summer Vacation is follows on from the previous Lego specials. Pretty much what you'd expect from a Lego special. Very tongue-in-cheek, lots of little Easter eggs and lots of little comical pieces. Split into a trilogy of stories. Spread across all of the different prequels, sequels, and the original. So all in all, yeah, just quite a fun adventure. Obviously, it's also based on the Halcyon, so you've got the little bit showing you that ship that obviously everyone's now getting to see in real life, so to speak. And yeah, it's just a very good fun adventure. As I mentioned before we came on air, I can't believe Kat hasn't watched Ben Solo's special Lego adventure, which is a fun little family thing. And it's quite nice to see the character of Ben Solo explored as a younger version that obviously we haven't seen in films or anything, but everything it's been alluded to. So yeah, that was I did enjoy it. As I mentioned to Pete earlier, the thing with the Lego adventures, they're fun to watch. I can't say I'd watch them over and over again, but I do enjoy them for a little bit of a time, to sit down, enjoy a bit of tongue-in-cheek humour, and look for all the little Star Wars Easter eggs. And as usual, the Emperor Palpatine is played for a fool, and Darth Vader definitely comes out on top as usual there. But yeah, no, a fun episode. I would recommend it. If you enjoy, the Lego Star Wars stuff. Obviously, it's all available, I think, now on Disney Plus, which is a real bonus because there are some fun little adventures there, and also, I'd recommend if you haven't seen it, having a look at the Freemakers series as well, because that's very fun and again, full of lots of little Easter eggs.
Do they have the Padawan adventures on Disney Plus? Because one of those has a young Han who manages to get in with some Padawans and Yoda. That one in particular is an
I
absolute
don't
riot.
I don't think that is on there, and that's the one that I was trying to think that I can think of that is missing from the Disney Plus. Yeah,
God.
because that's where you find out how Han was actually Ian.
Yeah, It's you
Uh,
literally couldn't make that
it's
one
just,
up. 3PO's in the
no,
kitchen chopping vegetables with a lightsaber. It's probably the most bonkers and the funniest one that Lego ever did. That is one could definitely rewatch over and over.
yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. I used to have it on DVD, and I don't know what happened to it because it, if I remember rightly, it was given away as a freebie with something at one point. But yeah, no, as I say, a lot of the Lego Star Wars stuff, if you want a good laugh and you love your Star Wars, then you can't go wrong. And like you say, there's some real clever bits. Obviously, there's been a lot said about the summer vacation that they managed to bring in Weird Al Yankovic, who, if you're a fan of his songs that he's done, which I am, it was a real big thing to see him. Although for my liking, um, I was a little bit underwhelmed with how they used him in Summer Vacation. Whereas I would have liked to have seen a bit more of him, I think, and a bit more of his tongue-in-cheek style of singing about Star Wars.
Was this the first special since the Halloween special Vader's Castle?
Yes, yeah, because there was the last year was the Halloween special, and was it? Or there wasn't the Christmas one was the year before, wasn't it, Kat?
Yeah, so this is now the third one.
Yeah, but
So
yeah,
I haven't watched Summer Vacation yet. Obviously, I did watch the Christmas special and we did watch the Halloween special when I got around to it. So I think I probably will check this out. I think what I liked about the obviously I haven't seen this one, but generally I think it's something you can probably put on for kids who will really really enjoy it. Then it has
yeah,
those bits and jokes that tie into sort of canon and our knowledge of Star Wars as adult fans, and enough to keep us going as well watching it. If that makes sense.
definitely, yeah, and that's very much what it's aimed at. I think, it's a good way of introducing kids to the characters from Star Wars in a fun way, um, and also giving the adults those cheeky little nods to things that we've seen in the past.
But I think even us adults need a good laugh at Star Wars sometimes, and that's definitely what the Lego ones provide. You don't have to take it sort of seriously. If you put on a Star Wars film, you have to take it quite seriously. Whereas you can literally have one of the Lego specials on at any time, even in the background, and you will still laugh at them. So I think they really are for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
And last question on the Summer Vacation Star Wars Lego special, Jason. Very important question. On a scale of Ben Solo dying as the lowest and the top end being Ben Solo topless in The Last Jedi, how is Kat going to find this Ben Solo story when she watches it?
Well, it's a young Ben Solo, so she's not gonna get excited about this Ben Solo. This is very much
I get excited about every Ben set solo.
but this is Ben Solo about to be packed off to Uncle Luke. That's the gist of it. Without giving too much away, it's Han and Leia last bit of time with Ben before he goes off to Uncle Luke, and it is comical, but it is also I have to say the story that they did there. Each of the, as I said, there's three separate little stories. So the first one is narrated by Obi-Wan. Second one is narrated by Anakin, and then the third one is narrated by Leia, all as Force ghosts. And the third story with Ben Solo is it's very much about parenthood, saying goodbye. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm definitely going to have to watch it because obviously cannot get enough Ben Solo content, and cute Lego Ben Solo, considering we don't have a real minifigure of the character, is definitely something I need.
And I,
Yeah.
I have to say something as well, Kat, that you're probably not going to believe. I today actually sat down and watched the documentary about the making of Rise of Skywalker, and I've got a bit more time for Adam Driver, and I didn't think I'd admit it after all these years of taking the mickey out of you.
Adam Driver is like the best actor of his current generation.
Thank you, Pete.
I
At least
have
somebody's in my corner.
I have to admit, the seeing his work ethic in that and seeing him in that, yeah, my opinion had started to change.
If you, like, I've not seen Adam Driver in a bad role. He steals the movie, whatever movie he's in. I think.
Yeah, I have to admit that I haven't seen a huge amount of films with him in other than Star Wars, but I can't remember the one that I watched, which I would say wasn't the greatest film, but Adam Driver was by far the best in it, and he stole the scene from a lot of actors.
I think he does a lot of different roles, and for me he steals the
Yeah,
movie, whatever role he's doing, whether it's comedy, a bit more serious, but like Black Klansman, Logan Lucky, um,
My mum
or
likes
two off
Black
the top
Klansman,
of the head.
actually.
Yeah, fantastic film, and he was great in it. He's great in Logan Lucky or Lucky Logan, whichever one that is. Um,
I've seen him in The Dead Won't Die, which is a horror film, but it's like comedy horror, and that's like the lightest role I've ever seen him in, and he can play both sides of the coin so well, both the serious side and the much lighter comedy side.
100%, 100% agree with you there.
yeah. See,
Um,
I'm trying to think of the comedy I've seen him in, and I would say it's almost a comedic role that he played.
but he was fantastic in that the sort of the relationship Netflix movie that alongside
That's the one I'm thinking of. I think where
Scarlett Johansson.
he was the younger brother, wasn't he? That was sort of the
I,
black sheep of the family.
no, this is more of like a relationship breaking down. It's quite serious, but
Ah, right.
he brings humor to it as well as playing it seriously. But again, a fantastic role in that. Um, Speaking of things on Disney Plus, obviously Lawrence Kasdan has directed a documentary on sort of the birth of Industrial Light and Magic. I've done the first two episodes, have not got a chance to watch the rest. I loved the first two episodes, loved it so much. The behind the scenes look reminded me of just how good Lucasfilm worked behind the scenes content sort of in the early 2000s. Kat, I don't think you've watched it at all. Is that right?
No, I haven't watched it yet, but I do really love the premise of the series and bringing a light and celebrating the massive amount of work that goes in behind the scenes to bring these movies and series to light, because it honestly takes a town to make a film, and while the actors sort of get all the credit and the major stardom, the people in the VFX, the Foley artists, the riggers, the set designers, they are all just as important. So I can't wait to actually watch it and see these geniuses behind the camera.
Yeah, it's
Jason, obviously you've watched the whole series, and without giving too many spoilers away, just what were your overall thoughts on the series, and why should anybody listening watch it?
right. I've actually watched the entire series twice now. This is how good it is. Um, like yourself, in the 2000s, early 2000s, with the prequels and the release of all the DVDs of Star Wars, Lucasfilm did some brilliant documentaries, and through that, I met on screen a lot of characters like the likes of Dennis Muren, Phil Tippett, John Knoll, um, so many different characters, and people behind the scenes that, although John Knoll does appear on screen, um, a lot of them never appear on screen until you watch the documentaries. And when you look at the innovation and you realise how important Lucasfilm, not just to start, or Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, sorry, not just important to Star Wars, but important to the entire film industry. This one organisation has been the trendsetter for so much. And also, it's nurtured so many different people. But it's like, I didn't know until watching this that John Knoll was one of the co-creators of Photoshop. And it was like, this guy's a genius. So yeah, it to me, it shines a light a lot brighter to what we've seen before. There's more in-depth looking at the different. It's more not so much the effects that they created, but the people and how they worked. It's like, obviously I knew about John Dykstra and obviously how he was there at the beginning, but this is very honest about the breakdown of his relationship with George Lucas. And George Lucas, in this documentary, you will see him at the most honest, I think, that you've seen him talking about how it's affected his life and everything. So all in all, the series for me is just amazing, and I thoroughly enjoyed finding out all about Industrial Light and Magic. A lot of the stuff I'd already seen in previous documentaries, but again, I would say what sets this one apart is it really does bring you, again, by the end of it, you feel like you know these guys. Phil Tippett has always been a hero of mine, and I still learn more about him. So yeah, as you can probably hear, I can't rave about this series more. And it made me yearn that Lucasfilm and Disney start. Now that we're sort of coming out of the COVID situation, I'd love to see them go back to doing the gallery style documentaries that they did for that first season of Mandalorian, and give us maybe a bit more insight into the people behind the story.
Definitely. I think one of my memories, come back to the early 2000s, was watching sort of those documentaries on the DVDs, and from there I got to see Doug Chang on his sort of first jobs. He
Yeah,
worked with ILM, as the concept artist, and then obviously when I bumped into him in Celebration London in 2016, it was quite like, oh, I was like, oh, well, that's actually Doug Chang, this guy who I sort of almost knew his name and his face of watching these documentaries so many times, but then never seen him ever, and then actually seeing him in real life was like quite surreal. Obviously, got to speak to him, lovely guy, but without those documentaries, I probably wouldn't know who that was, and like watching those documentaries, people like him, like Trisha Biggar, the costume designer, like you do get to know these names that make it magical. I think also, back in the early 2000s, it wasn't just the documentaries they're putting out. I'm sure StarWars.com had like live webcams set up on set and stuff, and was showing you stuff like as it was happening. Loads of crazy behind the scenes stuff going on, which obviously understand now because of the secretive of the story why maybe that doesn't happen. But you can go more than what they have done recently. But yeah, I think just a highlight as well. I think with George, I think you've never seen there's moments in the first two episodes that I've seen where George gets, you can see George is quite emotional,
yeah,
talking about stuff. Where I think George is always honest, but sometimes you don't see that emotion out of him because he's usually being either to the point or he's being showing his comedy side. But there's moments in
yeah.
the series where you see sort of you see the emotion, and I think that's really really powerful
At,
coming from someone
at
who
one point,
revitalized
I
the genre.
think at one point I think you actually see him tear up when he's talking about the whole process, which for me like you say, George has always been honest, but he's normally I think Lawrence Kasdan's managed to bring something different out of him in this documentary. And I think that is hats off to him, because it's actually shown us more of how great George actually is, because he is such a quiet sort of character, really.
Yeah, you got to think George doesn't like to make things about him. He's probably one of the richest people on the planet, and he's had some of the biggest insights into like pop culture, like than anyone before him or anyone after him will. But but he lives a quiet life. He gives his money to charity. He enjoys his life. You don't see him on Twitter. You don't see him on talk shows. You don't see him having his say. Do you know what I mean? He's very much like a quiet retired artist, if that makes sense. And he doesn't feel like he needs to have his say to be important. He lives his life. He spends time with his kids, spends time with his wonderful wife. He likes watching his Formula One racing, but
I was
he's
going to
trying to
say
build
he
his
does.
museum. But you know what I mean? He's not, but you don't see him at the Formula One making it all about him and like tweeting about it and like, look
No,
at me. He's very much, he goes about his life quite quietly. Like, you don't see him in a Louis Vuitton suit. You know what I mean? He'll wear his plaid shirt, he'll wear his jeans, he'll wear his
yeah,
Reebok or whatever, and you'll see him with his Starbucks. Do you know what I mean? He's a very, very normal person almost, for someone who's
yeah.
had probably one of the biggest impacts in the world, storytelling technology wise, than anyone, as I said, before him or after him. Kat, are you excited to finally tune into this?
Oh, absolutely. I'm only more excited now to watch it, having heard sort of all this praise about it. But I think Lawrence Kasdan was the right person to do it, because he's got such insight into the people who are behind the camera, because he's worked so much behind the camera. And I think that's only helped the series be as good as it sounds. And I definitely agree that the more we see of the people working behind the scenes, the more we appreciate them, and the more I think we appreciate them what we watch, because you understand that one scene may have taken like 15 hours to create, perhaps in VFX, and that only leads to more appreciation to watching it, because you pick out details that you didn't know previously. And that's what I love about the behind the scenes. It only makes me appreciate the finished product more.
Definitely. I think especially when ILM starts, it's the type of thing ILM doesn't really exist at the time. So George hires these people, these like-minded creative souls, to come together to make the visual effects for the movie. And it's never been done before, and you see them sort of trial and error, trying to figure out how they're going to do it, and then actually revolutionize storytelling and cinema making in the process. So it's fantastic to see that side of the journey, especially in the first two episodes that I watched. Like I said, hopefully I'll have some time end of the month to catch up on the rest. Moving on from that, obviously Cassian Andor's around the corner. It's coming the end of September. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is getting an IMAX re-release. It's also going to include a sort of Andor first look. It's USA only currently. It's getting released on August 26th. Me personally, it's a great idea to re-release Rogue One in the build-up to Andor. Gives people a chance to catch it in theaters one last time if they didn't see it the first time, or if they've missed, if they haven't seen it in a while. Why no better place to watch it in a cinema. And getting an Andor first look, again, another extra incentive to go. I just think great for the people in the USA who are going to enjoy it, and enjoy it, guys. But I just think like across the world should be showing it. Why can't we have that in the UK? Reminds me of times when you turn up the Disney store for Star Wars Day and there's nothing on, because we just can't be bothered in the UK to market things. So I'm a bit disappointed that we're not getting it in the UK, or not that I'm aware of as it stands. But glad that people in the US will be able to enjoy it on the cinema screen one more time. And I think it's a fantastic way to build momentum going into Andor coming out. Kat, what's sort of your views on it being re-released, and on the fact you're getting a first look at Andor, and on the fact it's sort of exclusive to one market currently?
I think us British Star Wars fans are so used to the Americans getting absolutely everything. We're quite resigned at this point. I mean, look, you American fans, all our American listeners, you enjoy Rogue One on the big screen again. We will just use the biggest television screens we can find to enjoy it. I wish that they did market Star Wars more in the UK. I mean, so much of it is filmed over here, for goodness sake. So many of the actors are British. You'd think there'd be at least equal to the amount of marketing it would get in the USA, but it's not. But yeah, I definitely think celebrating Rogue One is fantastic because it's still one of the best Star Wars films ever made. I can rewatch Rogue One every time it gets me, every time. Um, and the first look at Andor is obviously just an excuse then to pay money for the ticket again. I mean, from the trailers, Andor looks like it's going to be absolutely amazing, and it looks like it's going to be just as cinematic as Rogue One.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, you've seen Star Wars. They've got a UK Star Wars Instagram account now. The Star Wars UK Twitter account's doing more. I've seen in the past few months, so they are starting to ramp that stuff up. But I think if they'd put Rogue One in theaters at the end of the month, say for a week in the UK, I would say it at least 3 times. So I would have been a paying customer for 3 times, even though I've got it on Disney Plus. I already paid for. I would have paid to see it in the cinema again 3 more times probably, at least, just because of you don't get a chance to watch Star Wars in the cinema all the time. So yeah, I just think they're missing a situation, especially when August the UK cinemas haven't got much out where they're actually like re-showing old Bond movies in cinemas at the minute, especially at Cineworld, and they've been re-showing some of the Jordan Peele earlier work before Nope coming out. So do you know what I mean? Like, why not show Rogue One? I don't understand why they couldn't do that. The only thing I can think of is it's still available on like Sky Movies or something where they've licensed it out somewhere. But again, it's on Disney Plus in the UK, so like they're in control of it, I think. Jason, what's your thoughts? Would you have went to see Rogue One? Had it been back in cinemas, and sort of how much does that how much does getting a chance to watch Star Wars in the theater mean to you instead of just watching it on Disney Plus?
I have to admit, Rogue One is one of the ones I don't think I actually saw it in the cinema. I'm not, I'm pretty sure I didn't manage to get to go and see it for my sins. So yeah, I would have definitely, if they would have put it out in the cinema, I definitely want to go and see it. Because like Kat says, it is one of the best Star Wars films out there. In fact, it's one of my favourite films. It's I always liked the old war films, so I think it gets that sort of effect as well. For me, as well as being Star Wars. And it's yeah, we do seem like you say the poor relative at times. That's why I'm really glad that we're getting the chance with celebration coming up, where we'll get to show off how we like to celebrate Star Wars as well as everyone else. But yeah, no, it's something definitely. And like you say, the thing is, the trying cinema in the UK, I think, is still really struggling. And I think it's just, for me locally, for anyone doesn't know, I'm in rural Dorset, south of England. The nearest cinema for me is what, 20, 20 miles away, I think. Maybe there might be one closer that's a smaller cinema. But trying to get locally to see the cinema is pretty nightmarish around here. So it's one of those things that I think in the UK maybe we don't give it its due. And maybe we should.
Now you're reminding me of my cinema experience of Rogue One because I went to see it at 6 a.m. in the morning in December and they hadn't put the heating on and it was as cold as Hoth in the cinema. I mean, you're like watching the film and you could see a breath pluming in the air, kind of cold.
That's nearly as bad as standing outside Leicester Square for as long as we did, Cat.
Yeah, it almost is. The only thing that was lucky is I was actually cosplaying as an Imperial officer, and I had a coat with me, and I did not take the coat off the entire 2 hours I was watching Rogue One.
I think I'm seeing Rogue One about maybe more than 10 times in cinemas. I think the first time around, I've seen a midnight show in the first time, and then watched it as many times as I could throughout the couple of months it was in theaters. But yeah, I just think put that out, put it in cinemas. People will pay to go and watch it. You make a big bit of money, and you'll get the buzz going for Andor coming out. And
Especially
also maybe on
considering
a
that with Spider-Man No Way Home, they're bringing back that to the UK in September. So
Yep, indeed.
Yeah.
So there is stuff, and like Top Gun's coming back. Top Gun Maverick's coming back to cinemas end of the month with Top Gun in front of it as a double bill. So other companies are doing stuff, and like there's room to be creative and bring things back to cinemas, especially at the current time where there's not a lot of new releases out. So there's room in theaters for it. I went to watch a RoboCop 35th anniversary director's cut 2 weeks ago, in quite a big screen that was almost sold out. So do you know what I mean? Like, these things can do well, and the British people do want it. Speaking of not Rogue One but Andor, been some news that obviously showrunner Tony Gilroy's been talking about the awesome music being conducted by Nicholas Britell. He says that the Andor theme will be sort of one main theme that'll start at the beginning of every episode, but it'll be slightly different for each episode, which I think sounds really awesome. The fact we're going to have a theme song, the main theme, that's going to be slightly different depending on what the tone of the episode's going to be. I think is, again, sort of very subtle but very awesome storytelling tool. And I'm excited when I finally get to watch the 12 episodes, about sort of picking up where the differences are and how it does set the mood for the episode. Kat, what were your thoughts about that? Is it something, do you think it's just sort of wishy-washy, not important, or do you think maybe, this actually could be really, really fun to really put our ears to the screen when we're watching each episode?
I think it's a fantastic storytelling device. And when I saw that, it really intrigued me because it's not been done by Star Wars before. All the Star Wars movies have that same intro. The previous Star Wars television episodes, they all have that same starting theme. But to have one main theme to be changed slightly, you're right, it's going to set tone, it's going to set mood. It'd be really interesting to see what the differences are going to be, and I'm sure there's going to be sort of fans with much more musical knowledge than I dissecting it, probably on YouTube. And I think it definitely does make sense because there are a couple of shows I can think of, most recently being Moon Knight, and that started with a different song every episode, which set up the episodes. That song either had meaning to the episode or it had just a tone that would match the episode, and it did make a difference. So I definitely think for Andor is going to be a big thing, and I do wonder if it's going to sort of change perhaps more to the Rogue One music as the series progresses and you get closer to that film.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure 12 episodes for this season, and then season 2 is going to be 12 episodes, and that's going to take us up to Rogue One. So, whether we might subtly change in this season, but then come season 2, we're going to see definitely morph towards that Michael Giacchino score. Jason, what's your thoughts on using the theme as sort of a storytelling tool to set the tone for the episode, and having all us Star Wars fans on our tiptoes with our ears out?
Well, it's something that when you think about it, I know we say like there's the familiar themes throughout Star Wars. But the magic of John Williams is that each one for each film is interpreted slightly different. There's always slight changes, and that's part of Star Wars. The music is an important part. So to me, it makes perfect sense. Because obviously we know very much that Andor is going to be a series that's got a clear path. We know where the end that it's heading to. The adventure is getting to that ending, and I think it's just it's natural, and it makes sense to me that the music would do that. And let's face it, the more with the scores that now that we're getting more and more different composers coming in and working on the score, obviously they've still got the style of John Williams, and there's still very much a Star Wars theme, but then they've got freedom to move. And the fact that it's a it's a big part of the storytelling is something that to me is inherent of Star Wars. Star Wars and its music go together.
Definitely. I think you bang on there. And I think, the Star Wars movies, you have this sort of the opening music and the crawl, and then you have, the camera pan down or pan up wherever it's going. And then we have straight away like a new theme straight away. Obviously,
Yeah.
TV episode, a lot less time in storytelling wise than a movie. So the fact, the opening theme is going to just do that for us. Again, sort of make sense using the time that you've got per episode to your advantage as a storyteller. So very, very exciting.
Fun fact for you there, actually, Pete, is the camera has only ever panned up once in the main Skywalker saga, and that's for Attack of the Clones.
Is it pan down for the other ones?
It pans down for all the others.
Ooh, fun fact for the fact fans. Speaking of Andor and the 12 episodes we're getting, so they're going to start in September, the end of September, and it runs through sort of mid-November, so we've almost got like 2 months worth of Andor split over 3 months, if that makes sense. Because it's like half a month, and half a month. So we've got a fun-packed back end of the year of Andor, so I'm really excited for that. Are you how are you guys feeling about getting the 3 episodes at the very beginning, first day, and then also, like as I said, we've almost got 2 months worth of Andor episodes over 3 months.
I'm actually really excited by the prospect of having 3 episodes straight away, because it sounds to me like they all interconnect. So it's going to be like one whole arc of story, much like they did with Kenobi. I think the way that they released Kenobi with the 2 episodes straight away made so much more sense, because they connected with such a cliffhanger that it really did need both to sort of provide that emotional impact. So I think having those 3 episodes of Andor is just going to set everything up perfectly to then go week by week up until like the end of November. And having it like that, I know perhaps that it can be frustrating for some fans. Personally, I like having it week to week because it allows for speculation and it allows for excitement. You know that, I think it's Fridays it's coming out, isn't it? You have something to look forward to on a set day every week, and I appreciate that.
Definitely. I've put a day's holiday in for the first day, just for there being 3 episodes all at once. I'm like, I'll try and get the day off work for that, I think. Definitely. Jason, what's your thoughts on 3 episodes on the first day? And what's your thoughts on sort of September through November having new Star Wars every week?
Yeah, it's nothing short of brilliant as far as I'm concerned. I love Star Wars, so I always make the effort, and I try and watch it as quickly as I can. And I normally watch 2 or 3 episodes. I've got into the habit as well. Like when a series is 3 episodes in, I'll quite often rewatch leading up to the next episode. So yeah, so 3 episodes on the first day, brilliant. And I think not it's quite a busy time because I believe we're also going to be getting Bad Batch at about the same sort of time. So it's going to be quite a heavy time for Star Wars, which I'm not going to complain about because I will always make time to sit and watch Star Wars.
Speaking of more Star Wars, our next story, Oscar Isaac was, he's been talking about Moon Knight and things like that. He was asked about Star Wars. He said he's open to return to Star Wars as Poe Dameron. He says for him it would be exciting to come back sort of to a good story that Kathy would bring to him, sort of a good team involved, and he would definitely be interested. He talked a lot about time and sort of time is ticking and people get old and sort of, I read in that as sort of meaning, if it was to happen, probably to happen sooner rather than later, but that he would be excited by it and by having some good creatives in charge. And like I said, he mentioned Kathy by name, Kathy Kenny, that is the president, about bringing that project to him. So I think, I quite enjoyed it because it wasn't just him saying I'm open to returning, which, you get all the time from everyone, but it was the fact that he talked about time and, how people get old and it would have to work. So I think that shows that he's, quite not protective, but he's careful about the projects he picks, and that it would have to be the right project at the right time, type of thing for him and for the character. So I was quite excited by that, and I would love to see Oscar return as Poe Dameron, whether it be we see him in a sort of a prequel to the sequel trilogy, or whether we see him afterwards. I think both could work as a Disney Plus series, or as a character in Disney Plus series, or again as a movie. Jason, we'll go to you. What's your sort of thoughts on Oscar's comments, and also what's your thoughts on getting Poe Dameron back?
I would love to see Poe Dameron come back, and I'd love to see more of his adventures. One of my I, I do dip in and out of the comic books, and one of my favourites is the Poe Dameron series, which I absolutely loved. I've always felt that he was a brilliant actor, and because of the way that the films went, obviously, I feel all of those actors have the potential of carrying their own sort of adventures. I could see, I could quite easily watch a series of films about John Boyega and Finn. I could easily, obviously, there's the obvious one of Daisy Ridley seeing what Ray does afterwards. So for me, it's a no-brainer. We're Star Wars fans. We're going to want that. Oscar Isaac himself, to me, is the more I find out about him, the more I appreciate him as an actor. Um, I loved Moon Knight, and I thought that showed off his acting talents to a degree I'd never seen before. And also, I loved him in the first June film that he was in. So for me, I'd love to see more of him, and I find it quite. As I said earlier, I've been watching the Rise of Skywalker DVD, the commentary or documentary that they did. It was quite interesting seeing from him how he'd actually gone to J.J. Abrams and requested that he have a scene where he got to say goodbye to Leia, and then there's that brilliant scene where he's sat by her body, and then Lando comes in, and it's like that was him helping create part of really seeing who the character of Poe was and how he was at a crossroads as a general in the Resistance. So yeah, I think as an actor, he's got a lot of potential to bring a lot of really good stuff. So if I was Kathy Kennedy, I'd probably be biting his arm off and getting him in a studio somewhere. But at the moment, I should think he's going to be fairly busy with other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. As a guy, he's only going to get more and more popular. I think as more and more people watch his work. He's working with Denis Villeneuve in June. He's in the MCU now. So yeah, we need to, if we're going to create a story for him, we need to tie him down. Kat, obviously you're a big fan of the Star Wars comics and a big Star Wars reader. I'm with Jason. You know, I loved that Poe Dameron. I think it was four volume arc. That tells the story of sort of before the Force Awakens. And a Black Squadron. You know, you get a lot of his squadron in there. You also get a lot of Lor San Tekka in there, which is fantastic. How open are you to having Oscar back as Poe Dameron? And would you rather have him in a TV series or a movie?
100% would love Oscar Isaac to come back as Poe Dameron because he is such a talented actor with a technical skill both in front of and behind the camera. He treats his acting as an art, and you can see it because he does pour so much into his roles. I saw the behind the scenes of Moon Knight, and like the lengths he went to get that character right just blew my mind away. And he really fought a lot for his character's Poe Dameron. He asked J.J. Abrams to bring the character back. He was actually originally going to be killed off in The Force Awakens, and he's kept up with those comics. So those comics talking about Poe Dameron Black Squadron, written by Charles Soule, he's read all of those comics. I think I recently saw I think it was either on Twitter or Instagram. Somebody posted that he'd read Star Wars number 25 by Charles Soule, which has another Black Squadron, just a short story, and he'd read that as well. So he understands the character so much, and I think he would be fantastic in either a film or television series. But if I was to have a choice, I would love him in a television series with Black Squadron, just Poe in an X-wing. That's because Oscar Isaac would make it interesting.
Yeah.
It certainly would. That brings us sort of into the latest news topics. And now I'm going to talk about something that I didn't tell you guys about. It's a nice little surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
Hasbro issues. So I've sort of documented some of my issues with Hasbro and some of the way they're handling the Star Wars figures. I'm just going to sort of run through them. So I think, you know, as a collector, I know we talk a lot about collecting. We've talked about the Rancor, about the Reva's lightsaber, just generally the Black Series line, the Vintage Collection line. So I think let's talk about pre-ordering first. I think like random release dates, which, you know, I don't think they could go sort of any more poorly, especially when you consider the state of the economy, the raising living costs worldwide, not just here in the UK. I don't know how they can constantly tell people that something's arriving in 2023 and then deliver it a few weeks later in March or April. So that was like earlier in the year, stuff was arriving, you know, earlier on when the set was coming next year, and then you're getting hit with the charge for it. You know, something was like 6 months early. And they expect us to carry on pre-ordering when they have no clue really when we're going to need the money to pay for the figures. You know, we're all feeling the squeeze at the minute. You know, we can't expect collectors to budget for a figure that's due out next year when it's going to arrive tomorrow, out of the blue. You know, you're just going to get sent a shipment update or a payment thing, or we took the payment, or that the payment's been declined. I think that's something that they need to get taps on, and then the stuff that arrives like years late as well. I've been worried about moving house and pre-orders outstanding from a year ago, which, you know, they've all come over the last month or so. But you know, I was quite, you know, worried about it. The pricing, especially in the UK, the complete randomness of it. You know, I think, you know, if you take a vintage collection figure, so in the States they're $13.99. So, you know, at an exchange rate that'll be £11.20. You know, if it had the sales tax, it'll be £13.43. They actually go for £17, you know, £16.99 here in the UK. So you know, they've added £3 on there, like just for no reason, just to make money, just flat out profit for no reason. £3 that USA aren't paying. You know, it's just crazy. I think if you look at they've just released Boba Fett's Slave 1 again, just to give it a repaint to match the Mandalorian, and like released it for like £250, like, and they've since changed it, went back on the price to say, oh, we got it wrong, but that's been happening a few times where they put something out there with a high price, and then like wait to see what the reaction is, then say, oh, we've got it wrong, and change it as if like they're testing how far we'll go. And I just think, no, like make your product and make your profit on it, but like make it a fair profit. Some of the Black Series figures now, some of them are $22.99, some of them are $33.99, some of them are $36.99. Like the pricing is just crazy. And when you think about it, they're going to be removing the plastic bubbles from Black Series from going on. I just think, if you save on the package and then pass that saving on to the customer. So yeah, just a few thoughts there, just on that. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts on that.
Oh, I can rant about toy companies all day, quite happily. I think I'd also add to that with the HasLab, it's the fact that the reason the ideas are failing is because, well, they're not great ideas. Sorry. I mean, the Rancor was a nice idea, but it was the wrong price. And it didn't come in with the right accessories until like way into its campaign. It should have been stated straight away what the accessories were going to be. Reva's lightsaber was used in one television series. Nobody's really going to want that. And then I think I used to be such a big Black Series collector because they came out with the films. They came out ready. And now you're sort of having to pre-order figures for perhaps 6 months to a year in advance. And that's just really frustrating because you want figures to be going straight away with whatever you're watching. You're not wanting to wait that long. And I also think that Hasbro just re-release way too much. I mean, the vintage line is basically just re-releases of the Black Series, and then the Black Series is just featuring so many of the same characters, just with repaints like Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker, when there are just so many characters they could choose from. And I definitely think that the pricing has gotten to a point where collectors are really having to pick and choose the characters they get because they just keep going up. And I wouldn't necessarily say the quality is going up with them. Don't get me wrong, the facial sculpting and facial printing have definitely improved, but it's not like they're using lots of fabric elements. The boxes now are changing to completely cardboard. So I think Hasbro should definitely take a relook at their marketing strategies of not only what they're releasing, but how they're releasing it to customers.
Definitely. I mean, that new G.I. Joe HasLab, sold out, hit its goal within a day because it was a product that G.I. Joe fans want, and it was a high price product. Do you know what I mean? So if you do the HasLab correct, Star Wars fans will buy it, but they're missing the ballpark by so much, and they've got so many other issues going on that people are disillusioned. I was the same. I was clicking every Black Series, in the original red boxes from like sort of 2015 onwards. I'm only missing some, and I'll look to fill them. But then in these new boxes, I'm just picking up the ones I like, and then with these new ones being sort of no plastic, it'll be even less so. It'll be ones that I want to unbox now, because by putting the Black Series in a box that you can no longer see the figure, you are killing off the in-box collector. So yeah, it's not awesome right now, but there's some quick wins in there and some things they can do to change that, and there's time to change it for the better and change it and then take all our money, because we'll happily pay for good products. Moving on from that, last thing before we go into sort of the end of the show, obviously the biggest Lego store in the world is now in London, in Leicester Square, recently opened. I think there's a good piece on JediNews.com where Steve from Jedi News went to the store. Jason, have you heard much about how good the store is, and are you excited to check it out at some point in the future?
I haven't been able to catch up with Steve yet to find out how excited he was, but I can imagine it was quite literally big kid in a toy shop situation. But by all accounts, I've read his article, and I've looked at obviously the photographs, and I actually the Sun newspaper managed to get out an article before Jedi News, where they'd sent a lovely young lady who did a really, really glowing write up for it, which made me think, I wish I was going with Steve. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Obviously, the biggest Lego store at the moment in the world. They've revamped it quite a lot. It's more of, from what I can see, it's more of a experience now rather than just going into a shop. You've got you got a few displays there. They've got the Bond, large replica of the Bond car that you can have your photo taken in. I think there's a London bus there that you can have your photo taken with. There's a section where you can go build a model and take that away, which I believe is free of charge. So during the summer, if you're in London and want somewhere to take the kids, perfect place to go. And also, yeah, the one thing that I'm quite excited by, and I want to find out a bit more and maybe speak to Steve to find out if it's as good as it looked from what I read, is you can now get your own personalized 3D printed Lego minifigure. Um, and I think I saw that they retail at about £10, which I thought was quite reasonable, depending on obviously how much of a personalized sort of figure it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like they're going big time for obviously expansion, and I know they're looking at I think there's quite a few of the stores that are being shut for a while and are getting a bit of a makeover at the moment. So it seems that Lego are really pushing out to obviously expand the brand. Although I do believe we've got some dreaded price increases coming up soon.
Okay, so I know a little bit about this and this changing in the stores. The Lego Group are pushing what they're calling their retail entertainment or retailment strategy, which is that going into a Lego store is becoming more of an experience rather than just shopping. And there's more sort of interaction within the stores, not only with the staff, but with Lego models and things to do within the store. So the customized minifigure is build your own minifigure, and you can have printing done on the torso of the minifigure only, and then you can pick from head prints and hair pieces already in production that look similar to yours. I think you can more or less have whatever you want printed on the torso, except for like I think logos. And then they're also increasing the pick a brick walls in most of the stores to be a bigger selection. And like Jason said, in the Leicester Square store, they've got the DB5 and other models that you can have photos taken with. The Dublin store, which is opening soon, it's going to be the first Lego store in Ireland. That's also going to have the minifigure factory. And I think that's then going to spread out to Europe. And in America, the minifigure factory is available online. I'm not sure if it's available within every state, but you can certainly have your minifigure printed online and then delivered to you. And as for the price increases, that is coming. So that would be September 1st for most regions. And you're looking at about 180 sets being increased anywhere between 10 to 30%. So if you've got VIP points or you can see something on sale, I do recommend getting it now before it does go up in price.
Do you think that'll price them out of some people's markets and maybe we're going to see them lose money?
I don't think you'll ever see the Lego Group lose money because they make, on average, about 12 billion krona profit every year. So they're not running out of money anytime soon. No, apparently they can't absorb the rising costs of producing plastic and running their factories anymore, and they're having to pass it on to the consumer. However, like I just mentioned, those big profits don't really tally. They're not actually stating sort of where their profits are going, but the price increases are definitely going to put some sets out of people's sort of price zones, because particularly for the bigger Lego models that are £200 or $250 plus, well, they could go now to having another £50 to £70, which is roughly a $65 to $90 added onto them, and that is a huge increase.
It certainly is. Another thing, I think Hasbro doing the same with sort of, Hasbro, you can now get your face put on a Star Wars figure using face scan technology or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't want me as a Star Wars figure. I just want like Ula, or I want Jedi Rey with the yellow lightsaber, or I want Ben Solo with the blue lightsaber and the jumper. Like, give me figures, new ones that I want. Like, don't make a gimmick where I can put my face on a figure, because I don't want that. I just want figures that aren't available yet, like ones that you should have made already. I think that's similar with those Lego minifigures where they sort of jump the battle where you can make yourself. And as a Lego, it's maybe a bit fun because Lego do give us a lot of different minifigures. That's cool. But I think from a Hasbro point of view, it's like, nah, I don't want to make me as a figure. Like, maybe if I had everyone in the collection, then I would do that. But no, like, give us Ula first, Give us a Jedi Rey and a Jedi Ben Solo twin pack, Like, give us these figures and we'll happily buy them.
Or in my case, I would buy 3. One to display in the box, one to open, and one to collect and in value.
Indeed. Moving on from that, is there anybody got any other Star Wars related news they want to talk about before we wrap up the show?
No, only isn't this episode 99?
It is indeed.
We're hitting the century. Or you're hitting the century, I should say, Pete.
Very, very close to 100 Star Wars episodes, which is quite cool.
Have we got anything special planned?
No, nothing special planned. I think just have fun and talk Star Wars.
Cool.
Kat, any stories that we've missed out that you want to talk about?
There's nothing that I've seen that's particularly newsy, so I think we definitely covered all the big topics in the Star Wars world at the moment.
Okay, so we'll finish with the Star Wars Fantasy Football League. So if you have a Premier League, a Fantasy Football Premier League team on the official Fantasy Football app, you can join our league. So if you're listening and you have a team, you can join our league. The league code is 51X1DD. So that is 51X1DD. So if you've already got a team and you're playing in some leagues there, you can join our league and it'll just put you in there with all your points. If you don't have a team yet and you want to set one up, just download the official Premier League app. You can access official fantasy football through that. You can then make a team and join the league. You would have missed the first 2 weeks, so you'll be behind a bit, but it's all fun, so definitely worth doing. Just to run through where we are at the minute. So the league is called the Star Wars League of Champions. The top 3 teams currently are Aston Villa, Pedo Mags, and Anakin's Skywalkers. I am Anakin Skywalker, so I'm currently 3rd in the league. Other notable people in the league is obviously Canon Junkie XL Ian. He's 7th with K's Kings. And guest host has been a couple of episodes, Katie Adams, Rogue Squadron FC. She's currently bottom, but she didn't play the first week, so it's a bit unfair to judge her on that. But yeah, come and join the league. It's a lot of fun. Maybe the winner of the league might get like a prize pack or throw together some Star Wars stickers, maybe some badges. But no, definitely worth getting involved in. Jason, let's take it home. Where can the people find you on social media?
That's a good one. It's at Hondo Ling or at Jason Ling Photography.
Kat, where can the lovely people find you on social media?
You can find me at Kat Kylo on Twitter, where I'm always happy to talk Star Wars and anything Kylo Ren.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Boars Star, and you can find the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Star Wars Podcast. If you're listening on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, please leave us a top review. Helps people find us, moves us up the table a bit, also helps us in booking guests. And if you can leave a nice little sentence about why you love the show again, just a moment of your time would bring smiles to all our faces. If you're listening on a podcast app that also has a rating system, again, please consider just taking a moment of your time, leaving us just a top review, a top comment. Again, makes us all smile, spreads the positiveness going around, helps other people find us, and helps us get guests on. But yeah, Jason, Kat, thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Been a blast.
And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.
Hello, Star Wars listeners. This is Savannah Odit. You might know me as host of The Dorky Diva Show with my co-host Brian Balance. I am also producer of The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, which is a Star Wars-inspired audio drama that we produced over the last year. If you love stories about smugglers, courage, heroic characters, and maybe a few foes along the way, you should go to thedorkydivashow.com and listen to The Adventures of the Zolan Dart today.
Shout! We've got your pigs.
Were any of the critters harmed?
What did you do now?
I didn't do anything. I just freaked out for no reason.
It was nice doing business with you again. Maybe next time we could deliver something less temperamental.
Now, what you call temperamental, I call fun.
Hey, is there a place nearby where I can make some repairs?
3 clicks south of here, you'll find a small spaceport. They should have what you need, as long as it's nothing too big.
Dynamic class? My stars, you don't hear about many of those still being space-worthy.
It's been in my family for a while.
She's pretty great. Any chance you have a hover cart we can use to load up?
I'll check out the HoloNet to see if anything new has come up in the sector.
My name is Sereth Khan. I am the chief here on Kamai. My people and I have been experiencing food shortages as of late due to unforeseen natural occurrences. We are looking to hire someone.
I say we take this one. The pay is great, and it's the type of job we're familiar with.
Welcome. You must be Captain Otoa. I've already sent word to Pac 2 to expect you in the next cycle or so.
You told him we were coming before we even accepted the job. That's rather presumptuous, isn't it?
Perhaps, though once I received confirmation that you were interested and on your way here, I couldn't help but hope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Well, that's not good.
Is that blaster fire I hear?
So you're the one.
Captain, it sounds like they want to do this the hard way.
I love when they got some fight in them.
This is bad. This is bad. We're about to have a lot of company.
I'll see you soon.